Dear colleagues, I present to your attention our recent study entitled Unsharp Masking with a Local Adaptive Contrast Enhancement of Medical Images. My name is Ivo Draganov, and I'm an associate professor in Technical University of Sofia, Bulgaria. This study was carried out along with my colleague Veska Jancheva. The outline of our talk includes a brief introduction, followed by the algorithms proposed in this study with their description, and then experimental results over them. Finally, a brief conclusion has been done. The role of the contrast in medical imaging is crucial when giving a diagnosis based on analysis of investigated images. There are numerous techniques proposed over the years. Here we just mention some of the recent proposed ones for both computed tomography images and X-ray images. The prediction of the contrast enhancement has been done also with a deep learning techniques more recently. There a class activation has been proposed combining gradient weight, saliency, and backpropagation maps. Together they knew a new map for prediction, which is known to yield a overall accuracy of more than 90%. The discrete wavelet approach is also incorporated in some of the techniques. Here we look at the technique proposed by Kalel and Hamida, which also use a singular value decomposition for the adaptive gamma correction. They process the low frequency subbands with some factoring and classification to low and average contrast. The clustering-based algorithms is also another broad group of techniques which lead to a better contrast in medical imaging. One-dimensional column-wise separation, sorting and clustering, and also labeling are part of the procedures proposed in reference 6, which altogether leads to a fast execution when processing CT images. The multi-scale contrast enhancement proposed by Herrera and others is a patch-based one. It incorporates a few parameters, which lays for the noise estimation, and finally, when applying a Clache algorithm over the image, it is known to lead to a better result. The morphological operators for contrast enhancement, which is proposed by Kushel and others, include the top hat and the bottom hat operations, and also adaptive parameter estimation of the structuring elements from the intensity gradients, and is also known to produce a better result than the Clache algorithm. The Clache algorithm is being also combined with a high-pass filtering as proposed in 9 with a few tunable parameters, leading to more than 40–80% positively evaluated images as a subjective measure given by medical personnel. In our study, we look for a simpler approach which we hope that will preserve its robustness over a wide range of both the computed tomography and X-ray images when Unsharp masking procedure is being applied over them. For that purpose, we look at the 3 very popular contrast enhancement techniques. These are the histogram equalization, the image adjustment, and the Clache algorithm, for which we seek an optimal set of parameters and then apply each one of them into the Unsharp masking with these precise parameters being obtained. Here in figure 1, we could see the general flowchart for the Unsharp masking procedure. The input image is being blurred by a Gaussian kernel, from which we could derive the contour mask by simple subtraction with the original, followed by the actual stage of the contrast enhancement, and finally we get all the three resulting images into one final output one. In figure 2, we could see the flowchart for finding the optimal parameter for the histogram equalization technique. It's only one. It is the number of bins contained into the histogram of the input image, which is being used for further processing. The ultimate aim here is to find a set of root mean square contrast and the sharpness value together as the highest possible values when changing the number of bins from 2 to 2 to the 16 in the case of 16-bit images. This is done by incremental approach while we get the optimal set of two parameters. When testing the image adjustment algorithm and trying to find an optimal parameter for it, also only one. This is the clipping limit, which starts from 0 and is being incremented iteratively up to a reasonable point of 0.4. Again, we look for the optimal set of values for the root mean square contrast and the sharpness parameter. When finding an optimal set for the Clache algorithm, we are changing three parameters now. These are the number of bins of the histogram, these are the clip limit, and also the size of the tile to which the input image is being divided. We are looking again for the maximum possible root mean square contrast and the sharpness parameter. Here we could see the definitions of these very well known two parameters. Along with them, we use also the peak signal to noise ratio and the structural similarity index as limiting parameters, since in some cases the RMSC and the sharpness tend to rise constantly, but the quality of the image deteriorates in a fast manner beyond the point of being representative enough for the medical personnel to put the diagnosis. This is our test environment. We use a PC-based computer with an i5 processor running at 3.5 gigahertz, 12 gigabytes of RAM into the MATLAB 2016A environment. As a test database, we use 103 computed tomography images from the deep lesion database and 105 X-ray images from the chest X-ray 8 database. This is the list for all the parameters to which we look for optimal values. When running the histogram equalization technique, we see that for the very low level of number of bins, we get extremely high values for both RMSC and the sharpness. But the quality of the image in terms of its structure is quite low. The PSNR is well beyond 10 decibels. The structural similarity is below 0.5. That's why we continue to increase the number of bins until a satisfactory structure of the image is being obtained. And in this case, with desaturation, for both PSNI and SSIM. We see that this happens for n equals 6. That is 64 bins of the histogram being used. When testing the image adjustment algorithm, the clip limit as an optimal value is being assessed to be 0.01, and it is the same for the Clache algorithm, for which we see the resulting parameters in figure 5. Again, just like with the histogram equalization technique, we have the RMSC and the sharpness constantly rising, but this happens at deteriorating quality of the image. The PSNR and SSRM in the same time are falling drastically, well beyond the point of good quality. That's why we selected the other two parameters of the Clache algorithm to be n equals 8, which means 256 bins of the histogram, and the size of the tile, 2 by 2 pixels, denoted here with its order degree of m equals 1. The average performance of each of these three algorithms alone you could see in table 1. The Clache algorithm at the bottom is just slightly lower in terms of RMSC and the sharpness parameter. Both of these are well above the image adjustment technique, and as we shall see at the end with the visual inspection of the resulting images, the Clache algorithm preserves better the overall structure of the image. When we apply each of these algorithms for contrast enhancement into the complete Unsharp masking technique, we get the average results shown in table 2. These are obtained for the optimal standard deviation of the Gaussian filter equals 10 for the CT images and 0.8 for the X-ray images, which values were found also by iteratively testing the quality of the output image, this time over the general Unsharp masking technique. Again, as in the previous case, there is just a slight difference between the histogram equalization and the Clache technique, but nonetheless, the visual inspection of the resulting image gives a preference for the Clache algorithm. Here, in figure 6, we could see on A and E one exemplary input CT and X-ray image. The result of processing with the histogram equalization technique is given on B and F. The resulting quality is much higher than that produced by the image adjustment technique shown on C and G, and very comparable to D and H. Just an idea better contrast we could observe even at closer inspection when we zoom in into these images for the CT and the X-ray modality of medical representation. That's why we think that the Clache algorithm is the algorithm which performs best put into the Unsharp masking technique compared to all the other two. As a general conclusion, we could say that with this simple optimization procedure that is proposed here, we observe the Clache yields more detailed and contrast-enhanced images. The histogram equalization and the image adjustments are following in terms of evaluating parameters. The implementations of the latter two from the testing environment demand more computational time. All three contrast enhancement algorithms are applicable within the sharp masking procedure, but the Quache is the leading one, leading to most satisfying results. Thanks for your attention.